vision in this interim government is to make ABC a leader and a real war horse of our struggle. We want to grow it, expand it, hire and train more hands, and broadcast round the clock, around the world, and take command of the media space of this world.
You can enjoy all round the clock 24/7 exclusive moments of bliss as an ABC Amber TV Club member. A cappella. Latest Nigerian stroke African movies, global politics, ABC Amber News and updates, historical documentaries, and lots more. In our daily programs, we have Undaunted, ABC Amber News, bringing into the news untold stories with Onyi Okpala and Star Smart. Exclusive discussion, revolutionary panel conversation, infotainment, edutainment, intro governmental debates on topical issues with Tarh Paddy King, State of the Liberation Movement, Fronting IG and People of Ambazonia's Position, The Struggles Weekly Update with Secretary Martin Mungwa, PhD, FASC, Health is Wealth, Health Education and Awareness within the Ambazonian Community with Dr. Yaya, Liberation Prayer, an intercessory ministry for Ambazonia with Pastor Victor Mba, Our Freedom, Spiritual Awareness and Education for the Ambazonian Community with Pastor Victor Mba and Pastor Commando, Church and Politics, neutralizing the myths and preconceived religious and political philosophies that limit the Christian involvement in the realms of decent politics with Pastor Commando, The Horizon, the voice of the Ambazonian woman with Dr. Patience Abiedo and Lady Casey, Our Amber History, bringing to limelight the hidden history of Ambazonia to the world with Pastor Commando, Appointment on Community Building, Education on Patriotism within the Ambazonian communities with Ma Rachel Itatima, Ethics for an Emerging Nation, Watchdog of Basic Principles and Morals of a Nation at War with Ma Dorothy Ngwa. Upcoming programs: Pigeon News, Vernacular Talk Show, County Roots, Activists Corner, Amber Focus, only on ABC Amber Television. We the people, the voice of the voiceless. For 24/7 access, subscribe as a club member on www.abcambertv.com/subscribe.
Good evening, fellow Amazonians, ladies and gentlemen. It's been a while since we've not been able to come up with exclusive discussion. It's a unique platform where we come up with necessary debates, educational and informative discussions that will help to move the nation forward. It's important that as we get to talk and decode that dilute or whatever you want to call it, we help Amazonians to see these current situations as we prosecute this war from different frontiers. There's a good place which I like to start this discussion of today. A few days ago, we had one of the elites of our liberation movement, Ambassador Fossong. He made some utterances that pleased a lot of Amazonians, and some would say that such utterances were timely. They were timely enough because it came to debunk an ideology that it was all about Sako trying to do things his way. But is our interest centered about his argument? There was something he said which I think is going to create the right foundation for the discussion of tonight. He mentioned the reason why we are fighting. And right after that, Let's listen to him. Nobody else can say it better than he said it. So let's listen to him. Right after that, we're going to come back and we'll begin the discussion. With me in the studio is Barrister Fru Johnson, Barrister Tim Besea, Secretary Sylvester Zama, and we're looking forward to have Barrister Ghana join us much later in the program. But we will start with Ambassador Fossong. Let's listen to him again. I just like to refresh your mind. I know some of you would have heard this a couple of times, but I think it's necessary to have your minds refreshed as we begin the discussion.
I am Ambassador Henry Fossong, and I want to make a few things right. What the leader of our war, Samuel Sako Ekame, has explained this morning about referendum, I do agree with him, but I would want to make some records straight. We are a country recognized by the United Nations in a way because the International Court of Justice, ICJ, decided to keep our frontiers safe for us by the request and the writing I made in 1994. And there was a green tree agreement in our territory that the International Court of Justice requested Nigeria and La République to agree that they cannot in any way occupy our territory. Because they know that we did achieve the basic objective of the trusteeship system. We were a trusteeship territory, a child of the United Nations. I shall get time to expand on all this for you to know. We are two countries here. Unfortunately for us, even though they tried in all ways, people tried to push us into the arm of La République with all fraud. They have failed because La République has rejected us in quite a good number of times. I think the war that they brought on us is one of those rejections, and that makes the fifth rejection. The resolution 1608 of the United Nations is a non-starter. That's why I've been calling it a resolution that is null and void. Why? Because Great Britain did not allow our people to participate in it, knowing that we were going to accept to do only what was right. And then, of course, La République du Cameroon and France, their master, voted no against it. When you vote no against a law, that law cannot bind you if your no is accepted and is a principle in accepting or denying that resolution. I could elaborate if there be time. Secondly, this war is meant to do two things. Mr. Biya himself declared that they had tried to assimilate us and failed. It is because they failed to assimilate us by all intrigues and fraud that they decided to wage a war of genocide and annexation. You can see the way they are fighting it. Look at the way they kill our people in Bali. They poisoned them. Look at the way they destroy our villages. Look at the way they have killed us. Look at how they treat pregnant women. And they don't have any feeling for us at all. They have never had it. So therefore, the United Nations knows that we are a free people. Even if you take that resolution, you can see some of the examples of the acceptance that we are a free people. I will elaborate someday. And I think for today, it is enough to say that we are two nations before God and man. We have never had any legal sanction between us since that we started. That we should note. It is right, our brave boys and girls, our sons, great sons, and those making sure that they guide them and provide for them as Sako is doing. I doff my hat to all of you and continue to do what you're doing. No one will take what is ours away. You have decided you're using your bodies to take bullets from an enemy. Don't change it. La République cannot be party to a case and is allowed to be a judge in the same case. We cannot accept it, and we will never accept it. Long live the state of the Sultan Cameroons, a sovereign country from 1954. Congratulations to our sons and daughters. You are winning every battle. God is with you. He will continue to be with us till Sako and his interim government guards us to Buya. Congratulations, Sako. Continue.
You heard him. He said a lot of things. He interpreted the UN General Assembly resolution in a very special way. And Ambassador Fossum was very categoric. He does not believe that we have ever been part of Cameroon. He spoke about the Green Tree Treaty that was binding on the two immediate nations or immediate neighbors of Cameroon. On one hand is Nigeria, and the other hand is La République du Cameroon. In tonight's discussion, we're going to look at the behavior of these two nations. One has actually annexed, and one is seemingly disinclined. Reports have it that the Federal Republic of Nigeria, in fact, the defense chief said that last Wednesday, that the Federal Republic of Nigeria spent close to 8 billion US dollars to secure peace in Liberia. And my question is, what is Nigeria, an economic powerhouse, a superpower, doing to ensure or secure peace or provide succor for her nearest neighbor, the Southern Cameroons? Nigeria cannot deny that our story, our history, or the histories of these two nations are intricately linked and cannot be separated, not even today, nor in future. Well, Ambassador Fossum also brought to our attention something remarkable, and that's where we'll begin the discussion of tonight. The reason why we're fighting. He encourages us to fight. In this fight that we've mostly engaged at the home front with our effort to self-defend ourselves, our self-defense apparatus that has witnessed evolution from 2018, a dramatic and fast evolving movement from 2018 into today. We've seen less than 5 years, a people who started protecting their sovereignty or fighting for their sovereignty with bare hands, and now having highly mechanized weapons. We've seen others who a few days ago presented themselves to us as revolutionary leaders, making irrational decisions, creating confusion, digressing from purpose. And an evidence of such behaviors has been the Unity Warriors. In 2001, I cried out very loud. At that time, Coopers were gaining grounds. I cried out and I said on this same television, I said, after very close observation, that this whole idea, the concept, the reason and justification that some of their activists gave, I said that this whole idea of a unity warrior is a fraud. Because the spirit behind the unity warrior was not about bringing Amazonian forces together. It was objective at dismantling a system that was already working as prescribed by the Amber Peace Plan. Prior to the emergence of the Unity Warriors, we had an exceptional manifestation of our Amazonian restoration forces. In fact, these boys were trained under the framework of the Amber Peace Plan, including No Pity, that was the forerunner of these Unity Warriors. And so the Unity Warriors that was masterminded by Kondingi, Cho Ayaba, and some coopers like Chris Arnold took those that were trained and earlier on financed by President Sako to form their unity warriors. So it was a juxtaposition, a mixed multitude of Cameroon fighters, ADF, and some of the Ambazonian restoration forces. The word unity was very attractive. It was difficult for Ambazonians, some Ambazonians, even those that were loyal to the leadership of President Sako, to see the problem of the unity warriors. It was really difficult. It was difficult for us to communicate to some stakeholders that the whole idea of the unity warriors is not to fight La République du Cameroon, but to dismantle a working movement, a movement that had achieved a lot for Amazonia, a movement that had restored the dignity of Amazonia like never in our history. And we saw it. The unity warriors disarmed a lot of our forces. Thanks to the unity warriors, our brave, valiant Field Marshal Isubu is no more. How many will I count if I have to start counting tonight? Not only did the unity warriors masterminded the killing of Isubu, the unity warriors mortgaged a lot of fighters, exposed themselves. They were manipulated by Yaoundé and their proxies. And we have great fighters like No Pity would have to lost their lives. You're asking yourself, why do we still have some fighters that were not as strong as No Pity succeeding, being protected? And then we have No Pity is nowhere to be found. How on earth can the younger brother of No Pity, Shina Rambo, be giving up or surrenders to the DDR or to Yaoundé because of lack of materials? How is it possible? What happened to the weapons that were harvested on Sapga here in 2021? What happened? The fall of the unity warriors. It will interest you, this information that I'm privy to. It will interest you to know that the president of the Federal Republic of Amazonia, just a few days ago, not long before Shina Rambo yielded himself to the occupiers, the president sent to Shina Rambo about 600,000 francs CFA just for his upkeep, just for him to feed, because he was lamenting and crying of hunger. And so the money was given to him so he can just eat and wait and be focused. What happened? Where is this corruption coming from? It's troubling that we will have to enhance this discussion. Our caption, I'm unapologetic about it. I'm not going to change the caption. Some have grumbled, mostly those who thought and relied on the unity warriors. They have grumbled that I have to caption the fall. It is an unfortunate and a shameful fall of the unity warriors. We protested against it. We saw this coming. But if they had succeeded, it would have been for the benefit of the nation. You listening to me now, what is the success of the unity warriors? I can tell you real quickly. They have helped to kill Amazonian restoration forces. As we speak right now, Shina Rambo is giving intelligent information to our enemies. Because even the source of where Shina Rambo got his assistance from the interim government will be revealed. I'm not going to say any more. I'll be bringing our panelists so that they can process it. And that's where we're going to start. In the course of our discussion tonight, the president will be addressing the nation, will be addressing the comrades in Europe who are putting themselves together for a cultural come together in preparation of 1st October. So at any time the president is ready to address the nation, we're going to pause and we'll come back to make some analysis. I'm calling on all those who are watching us on the social media right now to share and invite somebody. Tell them that we are live and we are ready to to make great things happen. This is a discussion you do not want to miss for anything in the world. I want to be sure if all the panelists are properly seated, and I can confirm that everybody is there and willing and ready for us to commence. So I'm not going to take one more minute of your time. I'll bring them again. Good evening and welcome, gentlemen. Thank you for opting to be a part of this discussion of tonight. Good evening.
Good evening.
Thank you for
Good evening,
having
Paddy.
us.
Thank you, Paddy.
I think we have a baseline to begin, and we just have to start. Fortunately, we have the Secretary of State for Special Operations and Defense. He's here to talk to us, and I would like us to start and begin from there. Uh, Secretary Zama, you have related directly with these boys, and you understood better than every other person here what was happening on the ground. You tried to reach out a couple of times. We've had discussions in this regard. You tried reaching out to provide some remedy, and today this is what is happening. We have the fund of Bambalam has been released, and there's an audio which I'll play as we continue the discussion. We have Shina Rambo has considered or surrendered to the DDR or to Yaoundé. We have No PT who has been disappeared or neutralized. And the concern here is not even the death of No PT, it's the release of the phone of Bambalam. And No PT actually arrested him as a way of exchange. Even as we speak, the uncles, the aunts, the family members, even the girlfriend of No PT is still being oppressed. They're being tortured by Yaoundé. Yaoundé has not shifted position, but some individuals behind the Unity Warriors would like us to believe that this was an amicable arrangement to have the fund, who is an auxiliary of the colonial administration, to be released. What do you have to say? It is troubling, and Amazonians would like to hear from you right now.
You have several facets in your questions that it's a little bit convoluted. Which part of that question? Surrender of Shina Rambo or the release of the chief of Ofan of Bambala? Would you please clarify that for me, please?
You see, all of that is conjunct. It's like you can't talk about one and leave the other, because all of them are a consequence of a problem. The Unity Warriors, in the first place, was a bad calculation, and the consequences are eminent. It so happens that they are coming or resurfacing almost at the same time. When you and I know how many Amazonian restoration forces have died because of this creation. Please, you have the floor.
I think we quick to forget how ruthless No PT was. Even though his brother was under him, his brother had been shot for not following others. So rather than having this flamboyant discussion about his brother has surrendered and all that, we have to empathize with this young man. This is a young man with his family. There were three brothers who gave themselves to this fight, and all of them have nearly fallen one after the other. We failed. I think we failed Shina Rambo, and I don't want to hear any excuses how he did this or that. We failed Shina Rambo. We did not give him the help that he required. He was confronted by enemies on all sides. He was cornered, and we were not able to give him the assistance on a timely manner. Irrespective of what he decided to do, this is a gentleman who volunteered to fight this fight. And I think they deserve the right to give up the fight whenever they want. But a big problem is for him to have surrendered to an enemy, knowing that his ultimate fate is his death, and the death of more fighters really tells us that we actually failed him rather than him failing the revolution. I think it's incumbent on us to see what these people, these are young men and women, fight for. We have to go back and revisit why they were fighting for and what they have to give up for that fight to come to fruition. We did not do the best that we could have done for Shina Rambo. If I can go back to what you stated earlier, Shina Rambo was not giving money for him to feed himself, like you stated. The understanding for that money was to prevent 20th May. This gentleman distributed the money to all the camps that were to fight to prevent 20th May from happening. And this was not a guy who was willing to give up, but we failed him when he needed us most. I want all of us to go back and look at our apparatus and look at our connections to this and revamp our situation and dealings with these soldiers on the ground rather than trying to blame this gentleman. He's a valiant soldier. I'll be the last person to blame him for what he went through. We should keep understanding that, yes, there are difficulties in this life, but the failure that we did was for him to go to the enemy. It seems like to him, for convoluted understanding, the enemy was better than what will treat him better than what we offered for him. And I think with that aspect, we should really, really look within and have an introspective how we want to execute this war and how we want to treat the men and women who are fighting for this liberation. And I think that's where we have to start, rather than looking or if the Unity Warrior was a failure or not. The Unity Warrior was captured and by No Pity. No Pity has disappeared from the scene, and all the remnant of the Unity Warrior is all far-flung. There are individuals who are going around. It's just like a banditry group, and this gentleman was fighting and actually killing the enemies. So we should not go back and think, oh, this guy gave up on the revolution. We should rethink that. None of us have handled a weapon and shot at somebody willfully, and it's a tremendous job and a tremendous amount of pressure on this young man. So we should give him some empathy and go back and look at what we need to do to maintain these guys in the fight or to take them out of the fight when they have stress. PTSD is a very serious illness. Psychologically, this guy was hobbled. His family was taken. His brother was killed. Two brothers were actually killed. So what would you do if you cannot get the help? In my village, they say if you step your foot in an Ankara is this bedding that we have in the farm. It's a fire. You must step the second one because the first one needs to be relieved. You have to burn both legs. So that's all he had to do. He could not be helped. And we could not do that. And I don't want anybody to blame this guy. We have to look ourselves in the mirror and say, yes, we failed. We failed this young man. And I don't want to hear anything somebody saying, oh, he gave up. We failed. Irrespective of what color jersey he used at that time. For any citizen of Ambazonia to surrender to the enemy, it's a failure on our part. Paddy Asanga can do all what he does to convince these people to give up. Our job is to convince them not to give up. We haven't done that.
Okay, this is a very serious argument or trajectory that you have taken, and I'll come back to you on that. But I want to ask Barrister Fro, what do you think about this?
I am very shocked with what I'm hearing from the Secretary of State. And since he's the military man on the ground, I don't have any reason to disagree with him. But there's a question in my mind. Shina Rambo, before he's giving up, was he in the restoration forces, or he was on his own, or he was with the remnants of the Unity Warriors who are still existing somehow, fighting with Ayaba, like people like Big Vulture and all that. My question is what was he that we came to the point of failing him? I don't know. I don't know how we failed him. We cannot just uh, say blanketly that we failed him without giving some explanation. And let's take, for example, that we failed him. Yes. But what was the alternative? For him to give up to the enemy The enemy that he knows are responsible for the killing of his brothers. The enemy that he knows that are responsible for his family, for the demise of his family, and he gives in to them. I don't know whether if you fail me today, I was going to now turn and go to the enemy, knowing that the enemy is the enemy of all of us, including me. That is my reaction to what the Secretary of State has said. But if we have to start the debate, let's start the debate where it actually originated. How did the Unity Warriors came into being? The shot was fired by Chris Anu in April, is it March or April of 2021, when we were winning La Republique. We were going to put down La Republique. We were dictating the pace of the war. Chris Anu started having secret talks with Banqui and others in Yaoundé, and he wrote that famous letter to the cabinet that Dr. Sako should step down and hand over to Ayuktabe people. That is his language. And I was very vocal then, and I told the cabinet that this is a warning shot. We should take this man seriously. Apparently, nobody listened to me, because he stayed again in this cabinet as a communication secretary for until when he doubled down on his initial plan. And what was it? He went after Ma Irene. He went after Ma Irene, and when it became hot,
Yeah, he took Ma Irene like his scapegoat,
listen,
looking for a reason for his yeah.
I'm giving the origin of how these people came to almost destroyed our struggle. Listen, La Republique found out that they were losing the war, and they had to put up money to infiltrate us. And who did they use? The shot came from Chris Anu. Chris Anu carried it into the cabinet, attacked Ma Irene, and when it saw that Ma Irene was failing, he said, "I know my idea was not Ma Irene. I was actually after the president."
Yeah.
And we know exactly what happened. Why they were doing this? Money, La Republique was putting money in the hands of no pity. And Ayabacho, that is ADF, in Bui, to form what you call the Unity Warriors. The Unity Warriors is made out of the Bambalang Marines, big part of it, and the ADF, under the command of No Pity. With a lot of money, No Pity was going around with a huge sum of money given by La Republique. And this money, I have said that if you touch 1 franc of La Republique money, you cannot get away with it. And that is the origin of this whole destruction on the revolution, which almost succeeded. From Chris Anu, in the cabinet, you had Chris Anu, you have Maranta. My senior colleague here, Barrister Mbesa, will agree with me how Maranta was bombarding us in the cabinet, how he was attacking the president, attacking everybody, and we went after her. And of course, nobody in the cabinet foresaw this. Nobody reacted. Nobody was dismissed. No action was taken, and Chris Anu was able to succeed by doing what? By creating confusion in the cabinet, to the extent of taking the president to the so-called Restoration Council. He had carefully infiltrated the likes of Comita Elvis and entered the Restoration Council and poisoned the leadership.
What I think, Barrister Fru, is that it was when people start nurturing ideas, and that's why when we see such tendencies right now, it's important for us to handle them while it is yet early. When they start
Yes,
nurturing ideas, they start coming together. They were actually
we lack,
frenemies because it didn't take long
we
for
lack,
them
we
to
lack,
split.
we lack what I call preemption, preemptive action. If
Yeah,
we
if we
had
see such
preempted,
tendencies, it's important for us to start handling. I
yes,
agree with you,
and
Pastor.
before we knew it, they impeached the president, and before we knew anything, the whole place, our forces in the church and Fako were gone. They called themselves what the Ground Zero Command. We heard about the Unity Warriors in between Ngokutunja and Bui, and no PT became a leader of himself, running around with a lot of money. And you know, La Republic money brings balok to everybody. They started fighting among themselves about that money. And look, I cannot say how Chris No Pity died, but he died from inside because of that money. And today me here, I know Shina Rambo. I don't know him. I have never known him, but I know that he was with his brother. Even though they disagreed sometime and shot him, they were together in the Unity Warriors. The question that I'm asking, if
Okay.
we fail him, did we fail him in the Unity Warriors or we fail him as a member of the Restoration Forces?
That's a very good
And
question. And I would like you to have a break there, Barrister Flu. That's a powerful question. And before I get back to Sylvester Zama, I want to get to you. I want to hear you, uh, Barrister Tim Bissia, please.
Well, thank you for giving me the opportunity. Let me start from where you started. You talked about Ambassador Fossum, and I want to give a few sentences about that. You see, many people have heard about Ambassador Fossum. They don't even know him. They just know that he's called Ambassador Fossum. But I can for the record say that if we have anybody, if we have any good luck in this struggle, it is because we have people like Ambassador Fossum. Ambassador Fossum was more than an ambassador. Now, Ambassador Fossum, I think in the late 70s or early 70s, represented Cameroon at the United Nations. He was a Cameroon ambassador to the United Nations. So he knows about diplomacy. Ambassador Fossum was the Cameroon ambassador to Russia during the Cold War. So he knows how to deal with the Americans, to deal with the Cold War issues. Ambassador Fossum was at the tripartite. He's one of those people who pushed Yaoundé to accept the idea of addressing the constitution. Ambassador Fossum was in Boya for AAC 1, in Bamenda for AAC 2. In fact, he became the second chairman after late Barrister Ekunda Elad. That is Ambassador Fossum. He has an insight that if we can listen to anybody, that's a man who can count as our own. Ambassador Fossum was at the United Nations in 1995 with Munzu, with Anyangwe, with Elad, with Foncha and Mona. He was there, and he can call me. Ambassador Fossum sold his house, his story building in Obilia in Yaoundé, to pay part of that trip. I say this with emphasis because I heard someone call himself Sama Thomas, make an audio, and say, "Oh, you heard a chap called Ambassador Fossum." I almost collapsed. But that's what he is. He's still alive. Let me go back to the issue that we're discussing now. Now, no pity. Rambo, did he fail us, or did they fail us, or we failed them? To know who failed who, we must go to the origin of the Marine Forces, Bui Unity Forces, and so on and so forth. We have to go back there. That's where the crux of the problem is. And the origin, I may appear to differ. It's not even from what Basanso says. No, it's deeper than that. The origin of the problem starts with the CDN in 2000 and October 2001 and 21. But how did the CDN come in? The CDN came in because of the Swiss-led initiative. From 2019 to 2020, the Swiss-led initiative was on board. It was moving. Yaoundé was on it. So they shouldn't realize that they were not going to win. And so they went to the CDN, Coalition for Dialogue and Negotiation, whose sole goal was to destabilize the thing. They came in with the CDN with the sole goal of destroying the Swiss-led initiative. I say this, I talked to a lot of them. I have their documents here with me. And how did they do it? They purported to hold this Toronto conclave. And that Toronto conclave, they invited people, including this IG. In addition to these groups, they purported to invite independent fighters from Ground Zero. But above all, they invited their surrogates, the Wilbers, who came in with Ground Zero command. That was the beginning of the problem. And they came in, and what did they do in Toronto? I'd said this before on this forum. They invited me to talk to President Sarko. They invited me so many times. I attended their conferences. And where we disagreed permanently was that, look, you people are doing this, and who is funding it? They refused to tell me the funding. And I told them, look, this funding is from Yaoundé. You cannot hold a meeting, pay people air tickets, and you fund it out of pocket. And that was a fact. So they invited these guys from Cameroon and funded them and came to Toronto and brought up the idea of from Ground Zero Command. What was the Ground Zero Command intended to do? It was intended to undo the IG. That's just all. It was intended to undo the IG. Because the no pity and those who went there were not new creations. They were people fighting for the IG. They peeled them off the IG and gave them money. They invited so many groups, including some called the Takumben, independent fighters. I have their list of invitation here. And then they paid them cash to come there and pay them cash to go back. And that way their strength of creating Ground Zero Command, their fighting forces, the Marine forces or Bui, independent, whatever nonsense, came from. And so they accepted this thing. I cannot say the IG failed them. They failed us. They failed the IG. Ignorantly, I guess. They didn't even know what they were doing. They didn't see the thing from the angle I'm saying. They accepted those things. There's a consequence for creating a force in every revolution struggle. You have to be able to fund it materially, logistically, and otherwise. The Republic was not going to fund the Marine fighters other than to fund them, destroy us. You're not going to fund no pity to go and fight them other than to fund them to destroy what was really existing there. But above all, who were the main actors of CDN in Toronto? There were so many groups, but there were four principal groups. AGOFC, the Consortium, Ajakwanga, and the IGK. These were the four groups that were bent on destroying the IG. And so that's where it started. I said it because they purported to invite people to Toronto. After the Toronto, they had a second meeting in Berlin to review what had happened in Toronto during their CDN thing. And the main participants in that thing, there were groups. There were only four groups that were there. Choyaba AGOFC, Akwanga, Baakuru and Ajike of Sisiku. And they reviewed what they had to do. And their spokesperson became Mr. Baakuru. I have his audios here, where everywhere he lamented that there should be the ground zero command, the ground zero command, the ground zero command. What was the ground zero command intended for? It was intended to destroy the forces that were loyal to the IG.
That was a
Because
clear
these four
objective.
yes, because these four groups that went to Canada, and I will come back to it for the first time, Canada won. None of them
And just
was
to add to
fighting.
what you are saying, right? Just to add so that you continue, Barrister Team, they
Yes.
went on their different platforms and started saying that when they thought they had succeeded, we said it. I protested against it on television. They went on their different fora and platforms and were saying that we do not even have fighters again. So they were the one now telling the oppressors before all the Canada coming together and everything. They were telling the oppressor that we don't have fighters again. You heard only people from Kondengi. I heard that from SCBC. Now, how many fighters do we
No,
even have? That the fighters
no,
even died down. You know,
they
they
had
were the
never,
ones saying,
they had never pretended to have forces. They never had any forces. I was coming to it. IGK under Yerema has never pretended to fight any war on the ground. Never. They have never claimed any battle. All of us know, and Choyaba agrees. Choyaba has never fought the Republic. That was the second group. Akwanga's group had given up the war officially. They had declared a ceasefire in 2001. In 2019, I said they were calling their troops to the barracks. They were fighting nobody anymore. And Chua and Akwanga had put out a statement that he had been negotiating with Bankui in Ghana. So what was going to make a difference now? Mba Akuro has never claimed to have any fighter on the ground, not even one. And so they got this, our people, with the sole purpose of destroying the fighting forces on the ground. And I'm sorry to say, they didn't know it. They bought into those things and abandoned the IG that was giving them petrol, that was giving them food, that was giving them gas. It's not the IG that abandoned them. No. Shamba, what do you call it? Rambo,
Shinarambo.
Rambo, the other fighter, could retreat if he felt that he was no longer doing it. But in this struggle, there are at least two ways to get out, or three. One, you are killed physically until you are dead. Two, you are so incapacitated that you can no longer fight. You're no longer useful. Or you simply withdraw and go back to your house. So, like Rambo, like Field Marshal No Pity, like Field Marshal of the BLM, we all know they are no longer fighting. Whether they are their graves or they are out, they are no longer fighting. So they are dead as far as the struggle is concerned. And so, again, these guys abandoned the ship and went on their own. They did not realize that fighting the IG, fighting any war, requires continuous replenishment. You have to be replenished. They have to treat you if you fall sick. They have to give you food. They have to do so many things. None of these groups was going to do it. And so they fell into this nonsense. What would they do if they don't have money from the? We were not giving much money, but we had a little that we could give for their food. If they didn't have it and there was no money coming, what would you expect them to do? They would steal. That's normal. They would steal from people. But not our fault because they had caused the source of their own little that we could get. And so, again, as I said, they did so ignorant. They did not simply mean to understand what they were doing. Because take the case of the fund, so-called caught and released. If they remain in the IG, the catching of a prize value prisoner like the fawn.
Yeah.
You don't catch him and go and put him in the farm and keep him there because he will escape. And you get nothing out of it. So let me land this point. You catch, because you should listen to this. You catch such a valued prisoner. If you catch him in Goku, you don't want to keep him there because he run away. If the fight was still the same, that guy should have been transferred to somewhere in Manfe or somewhere in the BLM where he can no longer escape. At the end of the day, he will be a valued man for prisoner exchange. You keep him there, how long can you?
And that is legal according to the Geneva Convention. That's a legal practice. It's a
Yes,
very
how
legal
long can
practice.
you carry him along running away when they're attacking you? Had they remained in the fighting forces and they captured that guy, the similar forces in Manfe, in Kumba, in Victoria could have taken him in custody. He will not escape. You can't fatu him to Libya and put him in my own house there. He cannot even escape. That's not a footpath. He would have been useful
But
to us.
Barrister Team, we're going to get
Yes, sir.
back to this aspect of this form of Bambalam. But I want to come back to Secretary Zama. You know, you've just made some statements that are a little bit troubling. But I think I'm trying to agree with you a little bit that maybe we have failed them. And how have we failed them? Probably, I would say you have failed them because one of the things we are supposed to do to them is education, and the technicalities involved in war. We're supposed to train them, which is your responsibility. Train them to know that once you are already engaged with the enemy. I wrote a meal in the early 2000s, which every Cameroonian, they taught us that at the time can only succeed by writing a concours. I did not do the practicals because I didn't pass the practicals. It needed money. In fact, my elder sister was angry because I even did not want to enter because I was thinking of traveling abroad. Every young person wanted to travel abroad at the time. Now you know that a military person, once you're engaged with a gun, for no reason do you turn behind. No matter what it is, you are taught as a military man that once there is a fierce fight, before you even change your position, you must make sure you have a cover. You can't be pointing a gun like this when the enemy is from this direction and then you turn like this. So that is a training that I think Shina Rambo didn't get, and Cameroon took advantage of it. I'm happy that you acknowledged the fact that you actually received money. I'm very happy that you said so, because a lot of Ambazonians are not aware that the sole funder of this movement as it stands right now is the interim government under President Sako. Perhaps that money was given to him to take care of the younger ones. That money perhaps is small. Let's find out. Cameroon has billions as their budget, even though their treasury is dry. But China and perhaps Russia and maybe some borrowings and maybe the tax they are taking from us still gives them some liquidity. How much do we really have to fund? And I want to stand on the arguments presented by Barrister Fru and Barrister Tim to say that there were already shady clouds. I know Shina Rambo did a lot. I also did my interviews. When I saw that he had surrendered, I cried. I called Kenneth. I called almost all the defense officials to ask, but what happened? I even spoke with some even on the ground, and I got different opinion. His cry has always been, okay, he needed material, but he had also to be patient. Or if he thought that he was lagging and he was genuinely willing to humble, why did he not hearken to the advice of going to submit under Sargon and stay low for a while? The worst scenario would have been him taking that money and going into Nigeria. The interim government would not have been angry with him. Taking part of the money and smuggling himself into Nigeria. Do you really think you're hard on us for blaming us about our care towards this gentleman at this critical time that it is not only challenging to get the resources, it is very challenging to get the resources down to them. I'm back to you, Secretary Zama.
I think I don't think I'll be able to retract what I said earlier. I just want us to understand that, uh, irrespective of what this gentleman had done, I'll still go back to what the president had said earlier. Any fighter who is ready to fight for this revolution, who is shooting at the enemy, is a member of the team, irrespective of the jersey they were wearing in that fight. I think that's what we should look after. Um, the autopsy of the Unity Warrior should have been done a year or two ago, and I think that was done. We saw what was coming on, we saw what they were doing, but up to now we are still implementing what is available on the field to counter all those groups. We have the Marianta group that's going on now, which is what was really the linchpin of what pushed Shina Rambo to surrender to the government, because he was surrounded by these guys who were from Unity Warrior with Vulture and all that going around him. They wanted to kill him. They were gonna kill him, and I think in his mind he said he'll better be
Just a
shot
quick
by
one.
the.
Just a very quick one. Why didn't he just go and get cover with those whom he was sure they were not going to kill him?
I don't think the distance from Bambalang to Babisi or where FM Sagon is, it's a distance. It's a question of a few miles walk if they have to walk. I've not been to that area too much, but I don't think
Yeah.
it's a long distance. I want our people to understand that if we were really fighters that we think we are, anybody who attacks anybody who is fighting for us, who is fighting for the liberation of Amazonia, should be a cause of concern to anybody. He should have had a backup. He should have had somebody.
No,
The people said,
Secretary Zamada is agreed. Why didn't he, if you were to advise him, wouldn't you have advised him to escape to Nigeria?
well,
And just stay low for a while.
it's simple to say. It's simple to say that if you have armed men around you in the front of your house, in the back of your house, somebody advised you to walk to the police station, how are you gonna go? How are you gonna do that?
So how easy was he to have called the Cameroon military to come and meet him or to take him from where he was?
Well, those logistics, I don't know, but I'm asking you if you understand the dangers that are lurking. You are sitting in your boat and you have crocs all over the sea around you, and somebody tell you, Amas, you are drowning. Come on, how are you gonna come?
Okay, let
So
me let me put
let's be
it.
serious.
Let me try to
Let's be
put it
serious.
differently so that we can make some
No, no,
progress.
no, 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 no. Let's be
We
serious
know,
when we talk about these
no, I
things.
understand. I'm not trying to be hard on Tina Rambo, but I want to put it differently so that we can make progress. We know the technicalities of the ground. When a person looks around him and sees impossibility, it is even difficult for the person to get resources from the ground. True of us. I'm not talking about the cash now. I'm talking about the sticks. Because if he cannot move to escape, then he cannot pick sticks anywhere they are located. True of us.
I could tell you up to the moment that he handed himself up, he had a weapon that had enough ammunition to fight his way out. But he was one single person. All the men around, the 9 people that he moved from Bui to Bambalang with him, were all captured by Henry, who is one of the Unity Warrior people that was in Bambalang. And some of them were in jail. Some of them, Shao Mao, was killed, and some of them were shot. So this
So
man
you're
was
not
alone.
revealing to us that the enhanced Unity Warrior that is evolving to a APM now has positioned themselves to fight genuine Amazonian restoration forces. Is that a confirmation from you?
I think any force that's not fighting the enemy is not a friend.
That's amazing. So there are lessons for us to learn from this. I'm sorry if I'm hard, but I think that we have a duty to really monitor some things. Look at it from the both eyes. The lessons that we have to learn from this, I want us to get into the release of the fund
No,
of
before that.
Bambalam.
Before that.
You understand? You want to make a comment?
Okay, let me
Yes,
let me handle that. I think what there are two
You
things
want to
here.
make a comment, Barista Fru? Do you want to make a comment?
Let me
yes.
be done before Barrister Fruit can come in
Okay,
if he
okay,
wants to.
finish. Then Barista Fru will come in, and then we'll get into that because that is still intricately linked with this story. So
Well,
there's much for us to talk about that.
they are linked, but I think we understood from time immemorial that the Bui warrior, the Unity warrior of Bui, and the ADF and all or not, they were all kidnappers that will kidnap people for ransom. That hasn't changed. Um, Even though the La Republic people are saying that they shot their way and rescued the chief, that's the biggest lie that they can put out there, given all the audios we have in the exchange between Harry and the people who kept the chief. Um, the chief had said an earlier video that the Cameroon government should release No Pity's family and he'll be released. Whatever the understanding they had in yesterday or 2 days ago, that's up to them. But this chief or fund has not changed from what it was. If he decided to kill his citizens because they are not compliant with La Republique, he's still a persona non grata when it comes to his own people. We will watch what is going on. It doesn't mean that if you are captured the first time and you don't behave yourself, you will not be captured. We will keep an eye on him and see how the village goes. If he continues his reign of terror, we will know what to treat him as such. And if it can't get along, we will deal with him as I think he's learned his lesson. Either he's learned his lesson very well or he's not learned anything at all. It's all something to wait and see. But as I said, uh, the idea of the Unity warriors kidnapping him and holding him, I'm sure they exchange money somewhere because it's not the way they operate to hold people and release them for free. Uh, we, we, we can manage what they're doing, but it's up to them. But I've sent a directive out there that our soldiers are going to be much more firm when they have all these encounters with opposing forces that are not fighting the war, but are trying to undo our gains on the field. It's something that's ongoing, and we have to manage that. We've had to go into communities that before we're looking at all of these guys like in Momo that they were relatives, they were their friends. An enemy is an enemy, and it's a binary decision to make. Somebody who is pointing a gun at you is not somebody who is friendly.
Okay, fellow Amazonians, ladies and gentlemen, all of you who are watching this program, I'm calling on you to keep sharing. On top of the hour, we'll be having an extraordinary address from the president addressing those who are gathering in Europe today, coming from Belgium and Germany, for the reasons which we are aware of. And after that, we'll come back. It's going to be an extensive discussion tonight and an interesting one in that matter. So, talking of this fund that has been caught and released,
No, before you go
Pastor
there,
Fru,
Paddy,
yes,
before you go
Pastor
there,
Fru, okay, Pastor Fru,
before you
go
go
ahead.
there,
Just be brief a little bit
if
so that we can
if
get into it.
we don't make a proper diagnosis of what happened, we will fall into the same errors in the future.
Yes.
I agree with my senior colleague when he talked about the CDN and so on and so forth. I agree with all that. But what he did not say is what built in the cabinet where Chris Anu formed an alliance with the vice president, with the secretary of defense, with the with the
So,
with the with
but
the
through the CDN had their connection in the cabinet. They had their connection in the cabinet.
listen now. Let me give you. If the cabinet was solid together, what happened on the ground would not have happened the way it happened. We had the vice president was in Chris Anu's camp. He got him. He got our secretary of defense. That's the main man. What do they call him again?
You get one?
a Gowon. He got many others in the cabinet who lined up with him, and they betrayed the cause. What did they do? They had been meeting with La République du Cameroon. A lot of money was, because La République was losing the war in 2021. That one is clear. We saw what No Pity did in Sabga. That one, I mean, La République was shocked and they were on the ground. They were so beaten, and they decided to put money. And that money.
Barrister Fru, what I want to add to what you're saying is that even as we speak, No Pity's family has not been freed.
Yes,
they are still being oppressed.
Yes, let me say this. La République money is very powerful. And when that was not enough to carry on what we were doing, Chris Anu came again inside the same cabinet and collected $135,000. All that put together, this cabinet was completely on the ground. The vice president, the minister of defense, Chris Anu, communication secretary, and the others, and the chairman of the Restoration Council. And the Restoration Council was bent on destroying the interim government. Now, if the interim government was solid, how, and everybody on the ground, our troops and everybody fighting were loyal to the interim government. If they were not loyal to the interim government, it would have happened before the time that it happened. The CDN came as a backup. That was a group, that was a strategy put together by La République du Cameroon, and meeting in Canada and so on and so forth. And
yeah, but do you know what I think? I think that Cameroon was doing it as always in two folds. Even as we speak, the Republic of Cameroon is trying to see if they can get a window in the President Sarko's government even now. Fortunately for them, it's difficult.
Listen, they are using everything that is available to them. They have tried everything. Now, look, the Shinayambo saga, it's a very neat saga. You cannot discuss the Shinayambo without discussing the fun of Bambala. It was a trade-off. Why did La Republic not release No Pity's parents when the phone call on them so that he can be free? La Republic was looking for a way to benefit, to destroy the fighters in Bui and Gokutunja. And I asked that question, which has not been answered. Was Shina Rambo fighting under the interim government, or they were fighting under the Unity Warriors? And if they were fighting under the Unity Warriors, and we say that, okay, they are fighting La Republic, are we saying that we can finance the Unity Warriors at the same time that we are financing the legitimate Ambazonian Restoration Forces? This is, we must understand what is going on. La Republic is a very dangerous country. They do everything, they try everything, and if you give in, they get you. Luckily for us, the interim government that remained struggled, and we are back on our feet. Now, what is happening in the interim government, even as we speak now? You cannot leave the interim government, join the coup plotters, and come back and you are admitted into interim government and you remain loyal to that interim government 100%. We don't seem to know that. Look at what is happening. If we don't act, if we don't preemptively act, we will be surprised again. And when I say this, there are bullets coming all over against me as a person. But I will not shut my mouth unless you shut it for me. The question of how it happened is the cabinet was first broken down. And that's why the cabinet could not act immediately to stop what was going on the ground. And before we knew it, Ground Zero Command, Unity Warriors, and the splinter groups that you see. But thank God, like we always say, this revolution is a God-ordained revolution. Otherwise, we will not be here talking. Because these guys were determined to destroy this government, this interim government. And La Republic spent money and gave them to destroy us. And if we don't see the origin, if we are excluding Chris Anu and the coup plotters from what has happened on the ground, then we are not serious. Because it can still happen.
Yes, sir. There's no exclusion. There is just an addition. I think, yes, Barrister Flu, there was no exclusion. If you listen, we all agree on that it was one part of it was within the interim government, and then you see Barrister Mbesea try to expand their roots again because they work in alliance. It's true that they have divided now, but they were working in alliance. But you understand, they were working in alliance. They are divided now, and I agree with you. I agree with Barrister Mbesea by at least 100%, because all of them were working to achieve one thing, and that one thing was to dismantle the Amazonian Restoration Forces. We have Pastor Victor on phone, which I want him to make a contribution. Then we will move into this Bambalang stuff. Please, Pastor Mbesea, just give us a few minutes. Pastor Victor has a contribution to make in this regard. Just give him a few minutes. Yeah, go ahead, sir.
Okay, well, greetings to the entire team, greetings to all Amazonians. I'm very, very blessed with what we are talking about today. The only thing that I really want us to add or to contribute is the fact that I can understand where our comrade is coming from when he tried to paint the picture of the fact that whether we did not do well, whether we abandoned,
we didn't do enough.
Yes, I want to differ with that a little bit. I'm sorry, I'm not in defense, but we all see what has been happening when NOPT joined or deserted us and was carried away by the Unity Warriors. We knew that at that time he was still working with his brother who claims to be Rambo, China Rambo, whatever. Okay, we know how many forces NOPT killed under the arrangement of the Republic. How they will go out there, they will kill our boys, and then they will say, we have to stay here around. They always have to stay.
And Sagat was their target. Even until today, Sagat was their target.
Yes, it took us time to understand that.
With Savon, yeah.
To kill our boys, he killed a lot of the same boys that were working with him. And for Colorado to come out and be talking as though they want to blame the Indian government that they abandoned him, they deserted us. They deserted us. The way to the spoiler who refused the interim government, and if anything is beholding now, we cannot come to say we how much enough were we supposed to do? It is just like those in Barcelona can rise up to say, we deleted a commando. When we were begging commando, when we went out and said we want to be an independent fighter, we told commando, I told the little brother Blink, I said, this thing that brother is saying is dead, he's looking for himself. What if the Republic go out there and send somebody to be the sponsor and then kill him later? How are we going to know? I talked that to Commando. Commando said no, he wants to be an independent fighter. And 3 months after he died, this is not what we are saying. They will come to say that we need to have to protect Rambo. I don't think we should take that blame. That blame cannot come on the interim government. That's how you come on the I think you people have done their job. If somebody, because of greed of money, desert out and go out there and is killed, they should take the blame. And we should say this very to work on other fighters. If there's something you decide to compromise and go out there because you want to look kill money from the Republic or good money from the Republic, and Nigeria, we cannot take the blame. Rambo surrendering to the Republic is an agenda from the Republic. It's a plan. It's nothing that we can blame ourselves. That is the same tragic Sabatoma was saying that not everybody take the blame. We cannot take the blame at the interim government because you deserted us. You deserted us. That is the contribution I wanted to give. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you very much. Barrister Team, please. Thank you.
Yes, I mean, there are a few things that we must do rightly. Now Rambo is surrendered. Blaming him left and right is not an answer. He's not the
Yeah.
first man. If he's the first, he's not the last. Some others will surrender tomorrow. I think what we should be saying is telling our fighters that if you must surrender for whatever reason, you don't have to go to the enemy, to the DDR. Tell us that you are tired. We'll help you to escape. If it makes taking you to a different country or taking you even out of Cameroon, we can do that. And I've done this before, personally. All of us remember the issue of Ayeke in the BLM. Ayeke was not very much with Red Dragons. When they killed him, some of his people wanted to come back and we said, look, we look suspicious. Some of them said they wanted to surrender. I personally, nobody knows it. I told them, don't surrender. If it is necessary, if you need my help personally, I'll give you money to escape to Nigeria. There you are safer than going to the DDR. So going forward, let the fighters know that if you must surrender, which we don't encourage them, going to the DDR is not an answer. So this issue of Rambo should serve as a lesson for the future surroundees who don't pray for them. So I think that should be the lesson we learn from it. And the second thing
Yes.
I
Thank
want
you very
us,
much for that.
yeah, and
Thank
something I
you.
want,
You're going to make that
some,
contribution. You still want to talk about this defense stuff? Because I
yeah,
wanted you
let me
to put
just,
it all together
let,
as we
let me
analyze
finish,
the release
let,
of the
let, me,
phone.
let me finish this point. The second point I
Yeah.
want us to take home, and this goes to the sector of defense. Let the fighters on ground zero or home front know that there's nothing called independent fighters. No, there's nothing like that. If you like Oyaba, go to him. If you like Akwanga, go to him. But there's nothing called independent fighters because you belong to a group for a purpose. The same as your backup. Even when you are surrounded, as you were saying, if you're an IG guy, who would say, okay, rather than going to Yaoundé or to Bamenda DDR, will sponsor you out. If you fall sick, your group takes care of you. If you need supplies, your group supplies for you. So the department would do a good job. Tell them that this nonsense of independent fighters does not exist anywhere in the world. And back to, we're wasting our time over who started this. The people went to Canada with home front command. They were not people that you could just ignore. Forget about Anu. Anu played this role. But remember that in Canada, 2021, at the CDN conference, who are those who were there? The Wilbers were there. Wilbur is not a man you just dismiss like that. The Professor Anyangwes were there. They're not people that you just, we may dismiss them, but they have a following on the ground.
And we were told that they bribe fighters at the home front, promising
And
some
then
of them to
they
take
were
them to
doing this
Canada.
with a lot of money. We don't need to debate money here. Our IG is nothing compared even to the allowance of a general. Our finances are all not even up to the allowance of a general in Bamenda. So we're not competing for money there. But the forces behind independent, what do you call it, independent fighters, home front, they were so strong, and they are still so strong now. That's why you find them, they multiply CDN, they multiply Canada 2, Canada 3, Canada 4. They are not doing it for nothing. They are an important force to reckon with. But until we know them, then do we know how to counter them? Again, the last
Yeah.
Canada thing that failed, we remember it was on video. Professor Nyangwe stood there and said, well, Ground Zero, take control. He was saying this publicly. I was so angry. But my anger is immaterial. The people who are following him.
Ambassador team, I'm not cutting you short. Their desperation for Ground Zero to take control is because of their failure in the diaspora to implant their hegemony. That is something we all know. And this
No.
is all revolving.
Paddy, you're right. I was coming to that point. Let them know, all of us know that there can be no liberation struggle without the diaspora.
No, it cannot
In
happen.
most of them, that I know, the leadership comes from abroad even to take over power. John Garang was not living in Sudan. Mugabe was not living in Zimbabwe. So ground diaspora is the most powerful component of it. Could not pity
Yeah.
himself leave his military base in somewhere in Banso, go take a plane from Douala? Could he go there to go talk to the Minister of Foreign Affairs? This is work done by the diaspora. So
The
somebody who
truth
say the
is,
diaspora
Cameroon
just
understand that that is an umbilical cord, the diaspora. In fact, the Southern
yes,
Cameroon has a strong diasporic community, and Cameroon is using emotional blackmail, sabotage to rupture that link between the diaspora and the home front. But our people know better and they can be educated. Now, I must not allow you people to direct this show. We have to get into this fun of Bambalang and his release. But even before I say a word about it, I want to make us understand that the Ngokitunja Bui axis, that is what we're depending on right now to send a very strong message to Cameroon, has witnessed auxiliary traditional rulers who have betrayed their people. The Fonam, so I grew up, my stepbrothers are from so their mom in so I grew up to know that the Fai is a very important figure. I'm talking about a Fai that is considered as a head, not even a quarter head, but a family head. Then Saw people have a very strong tradition. And I do not seem to understand how that Fon Omso will condescend so low to defy the very traditions and cultures of the Nso people, to deny his people on camera. Even at the time that he was arrested, he looked on the camera and still denied his people and chose Tiawunde. And then we now have this guy on Bambalang, who was actually working with the colonial administration to attack the boys on the ground. In fact, he was collaborating to give intelligence. As we speak, there is an audio that has been making rounds. ABC has packaged it. We've edited this audio. We've made it because this is history, and we want to use it to process it. We think that Amazonians have a right. You have listened to it before. I want us to listen to it again. It's 5 minutes. Let's listen to it again very clearly. And then we see why and how Cameroon is gaining politically by this receipt, by this release. We will also see how that the unity warrior was just a bad idea and how this is a big fail. Watch.
Hello, Papa.
No.
Good morning.
Yeah, good morning. No,
No, fine, fine.
no, I did.
Okay, I think then.
No, with the pusher.
What's up?
No, just day.
Okay, okay.
Sir,
Uh-huh.
today na Sunday na so when I get for plan more arrangement and that one so I never come so now.
No, the problem I say I never want to do some work. So some places for Bafanji where military be the camp for they worry people and so they don't call we for the military. So I never want to make a the mission. So we accommodate so the market day before now for Sunday. So we come on and go make attack for them. Now the reason we make a way whenever we can up, but we can't up. I don't tell you say say we can't up now. But I was today now already Sunday, so we will can't up and I time the repass tomorrow on a Monday. We can't on for Tuesday now, so that we fish don't talk on Wednesday, so that on Thursday we'll carry the phone and bring her for down because we are phone don't talk all things. Today I don't send some air that the way they become for me. I don't send them the go take the go take some clues and how you go dress with them because I don't tell them say phone go to when you go bring the clues you go wait like 2 or 3 days before it can down. So we don't really do all things or today I don't I don't put them in place. You see, me a phone don't talk. I don't call the guy the way they be the guy. The way they be the guy phone. So they go take phone now go down for network. Me a phone talk. I tell you say, although we know say na government worker. When he go come back, he go still go back for that like republic. But we never deny. If he come back, then go back for them. Me know say he safe. If you want come for Bambala, me know phone our pan. Now why that way? Time we wanna be the phone here. The tell and say. They so no be me at the key from and a hubara I the talk with them big before they pay me so I come I the car
That means you will come now when they will try check and make the come out.
I will come
because I talk to you know the fee fine.
I will come on Tuesday so that on Wednesday all we go she don't talk. You see no all we go she don't talk. They don't wanna talk now with that people for Ambazonia. Let all they know say from no get no problem. You see no. Yeah, so that will.
I mean, the all thing done there now for na hand no. All thing done there now.
All thing there now.
Yeah, one just come for no hour program.
Yeah, all thing there for hand. You no wanna just wait on Tuesday. No come on, you know the phone even that phone to number way even if they said the way he be talk with me. Man, I really sorry that man. I really sorry that man. That's
even they don't for you said me are sorry
yeah. Yeah, you know the when the day was some place where the big man day for the when big man take order where all my the fear and I fear now only so something they happen no. So I don't really beg you. I don't talk to with some fun. But now fun for which place I forget the you know I don't talk to you. So you know me I don't talk all thing. I don't tell you if you come go outside then when you want come for you know yeah when you want come for me no fear. Yeah but me just can't hide in a hide.
No, me not saying the place may avoid anything military.
Yeah.
For I work for military convoy.
Yeah, me no.
You want some village, nothing a village. It come normally like fun.
That's why we don't tell you, pa. That's why we don't tell you. Say if you want come for Bambala, me just carry NC, but me not bring military. And anything we concern military, no, me not this time for from because fund the full in a full. Now how many fund they go kutunja no the pay? Let fund they go kutunja, but yeah. Like even we on phone or on village too, where he is over the team.
Anyhow, that means everything they now. Anyhow, they will become me no.
Yes, because now whether I talk with you do Amazon so because when they so phone they now we even a upa, if you advise me to take the phone go to now different side. When we go for village, everybody only ask the phone, everybody only ask the phone. So majority na some kind. Now why I tell you.
Sometimes the BDCS they don't die no.
No.
When you release your man go be happy. Now order.
No, I don't call people for
even at this year, so you don't know say people them for here they come see me say go for this one now. So they don't already know say they for here. So
even me
all two them now
because
talk with Tarh. Then you talk with Tarh, we will see how things are.
No, me a power don't talk OT. Because if you don't tell me, he get to come back, only make more height and no make a million. No, so that he go make some tradition for Paddy. Then come go now, so that he go meet up like the people now. When the don't settle, he go beg permission now for that. Then come back tradition. Then make OT for Bambala, make OT to go fine.
No trouble on there. That means I don't get.
Okay. Yeah, okay. Give me fine thing.
What you say, no?
Okay. Give me fine thing. I go bring a fish.
No, order.
Salami all boy them.
They go yeah.
Okay, salami dollar, my man.
Oh mango yeah.
Okay, thank you.
We can see money has changed hands. Scandalous, you understand? Secretary Zama, please. Ambazonians cannot wait to hear you speak now.
Well, that's just a typical behavior of the ADF transactional relationship that they have with their friends in La Republique. The fund was let go in exchange for money. There was not exchange for no PT's family as it was requested earlier on. There's nothing that we should expect. In many of these wars of liberation, there are always proxy groups that are supported by the government. You can look at what happened with the Buthelezi within Qatar in South Africa. You can see what Savimbi in Angola, and many more people. You can see Ahijo in Cameroon. Uh, there are always these things. We should not be oblivious of that happening in a revolution like ours. It's a asymmetric war that's being fought. The Republic understands that it cannot really win. It has to devise means to put in fighting and get our own people to kill our own people. Sadly so. But we should not forget that that's not happening. That's something that the enemy always uses. It's a war tactic that's been used in so many wars since Napoleon. So there's nothing new in this. We understand that there are groups that are going to be created to act like a cancer in our revolution, and our people should understand that, and we understand that. Now we have to devise ways to counter that. The problem that has existed in our defense against this is because a lot of our other people did not understand that these people were real enemies. They did not understand because these people were from the same village area, they were from the same localities. They didn't see it until they started killing their own. Then it dawned on them that, yep, we have to react. And that's why you see the robust reaction by Field Marshal Tokando in Bui. You see the reaction of Saigon. You see the reaction of other people in Upper Bayang, in Manfe area. You see the reaction of our soldiers in Meme and in other parts of Boyo and Awana. But at the end of the day, we have to understand that these things happen, and these people who are doing all these things are not doing all these things in the name of the revolution. They are just banditries. They are just bandits who are out to profiteer from all what's going on. It's something that we have to look after. We have to mitigate it, and I hope the fun of Bambalang actually learns a lesson from his 1 year or so seclusion from his life, and understanding of why this student, his own kids, were fighting a war. They've gotten money, so sadly so, but I hope he learns something from this. It's a bad situation, and it's not something that we should be proud of. But at the end of the day, we have to continue our education of our citizens. Why are they in this war? Why are we fighting this war? We have to make them understand that they asked for this war. We were defending ourselves, and why we are still in this war because of the situation. If those situations that they entered the war or decided to fight the war have been resolved, let them tell us in the diaspora, and we'll go back to our regular lives. But if they who are on the ground are still playing games with their own future, they have themselves to blame. But we are not going to fry the whole nation for a few selfish people. And Amazonia is able and willing to defend itself from tyrants like this, tyrants like Big Number in Bachibo, and this little shack that's growing up in with a unity warrior called Henry. Uh, we will deal with all those people when the moment comes. And it's a new ordre de jour that our people have to go after these people who are after our soldiers. We will not tolerate anything short of going after them as ferociously as possible. We cannot undertake this. Oh well, they just came and took one person. We are not gonna be like the deer in the Serengeti where the lion comes and just pick one after the other and we watch. We are gonna fight back. We are gonna fight back, and they will realize that the tactics and the mentality has changed, because an enemy is an enemy. If you're an enemy who is pointing a gun at our soldiers, you are not a friend, as we stated earlier. But at the end of the day, our people have to realize that there are so many facets in a war. Not every participant in a war front is a friend. We have enemies. We have proxy groups that are they look like a friend, but they are few enemies. And we have many of those. And we have to be aware of those. And by what we consume from these enemies, by what they say, by what they do. If they quack like a dog, they are a dog. So we have to keep our heads up and be watchful about this. The fun of Bambalang, I hope he learns a very good lesson and serve his people like the citizen of Ambazonia who he is.
That's amazing. Thank you very much. Any moment from now, we'll be receiving the president will be addressing the comrades in Europe who have gathered together for a very special reason. We are told that one of the objectives is to prepare for the 1st October that's coming. The president would seek to have the celebrations or commemorations of our Independence Day this year very special, and there's already groundwork that's being done in different corners of the world as to how these festivities will unfold. But before that, I want the both barristers to react to something. I'd like us to look at it. This is actually a video of this phone who has been released. Let us observe very closely. The phone has been released, and very strangely, what never happened in Ambazonia, the phone is gallivanting with Cameroon flag. It was calculated and placed all around a militarized environment. A few CPDM women brought to come and pretend to shed some crocodile tears. We have a phone who is received Nkung. Nkung is the peace plan for those of you who did not grow up in Bamenda. Nkung means peace plan. You have the Nkung and the colonial flag everywhere. So this is a propagandist message that the Republic of Cameroon is using. They have used the release of this phone. And that's why I think the whole idea and the manner with which the phone was released, in fact, the whole idea is a flop and a flop and a flop. We now see Yaoundé is taking it to tell the world that we have control. We can negotiate with the fighters. Other reports are saying that they ambushed the camp. But we know that it was a freeway donation. It was a freeway release. Money had changed hands and the fund was released. This is why we say that the idea of the Unity Warriors was bad from inception. The leadership was corrupted, and all the people needed was to have submitted their allegiance to their local governments that have proven for 3 years now and counting that they are competent enough to provide counsel, to provide protection, and to provide resources. Barrister Fru, Barrister Mbesa,
Yes.
you are seeing the images, those disgraceful images for yourself.
Yes.
And I'd like you to comment very quickly, because in 7 minutes time, we will be transitioning into the State House to get the president's address.
Yes, my first comment is it was not only money, it was also Shina Rambo. Shina Rambo was going to be killed by his colleagues of the Unity Warriors, and they negotiated that he should surrender to La République du Cameroun. He had no choice. It was part of the negotiation. The money.
So you are saying that he had to surrender to Cameroon or die. So
die.
Because I've heard the side of the story that if he did not submit to Cameroon, he would have died. No. It was not about him being submitting to the Unity Warriors.
He had either to submit to La République du Cameroon or die. That's why I don't buy the story of the SOS that we failed in.
Yes, okay, but Barrister T, please, quickly. We don't have time. The president is going to address the nation. So you have 30 seconds, Barrister.
Say what I want to say. What I'm saying
ahead,
is
please.
that the negotiation had Shina Rambo to surrender, and the Unity Warriors received a lot of money, and Shina Rambo was first taken to Bamenda, and now he's in Dop, and to go around and show where our people are so that the Republic can push us out. That is the arrangement. And let me also tell you that the arrival of the phone, as you see there, was not only being guarded by the military, but also by the Unity Warriors, led by one Henry. Henry, I don't know what is the other name, Yoni or whatever. That is the man who masterminded this whole thing. Either Sina Rambo gives up himself or he dies. And we cannot say that.
Yep, Barrister Tim.
Okay, this is what is important now. One thing is clear. The military did not release the phone. Sure, the phone was released after more than a year in detention. So the military did not release him. But what you find there is all propaganda. Propaganda is part of war. That's short and simple. You did not expect him to come there standing with an ambassador flag behind him.
Yep.
Neither do you expect him to go and sleep in that palace today without the military guiding him. As the secretary has said, we hope, unless that man is the dullest man in the world, he has learned a lesson from his 1.5 years in captivity. As I said earlier, they are good that they are being captured only by Capo Daniel and his friends. If our regular forces ever had the opportunity to hold somebody of that level, that's a valid political prisoner. Take him to the safest place, don't kill him, because we shall use him in exchange for other political prisoners.
Correct.
The phone is not even important. How important is the phone compared to Madame Mundi, who was a whole senator? In political status, is no man. Madame Mundi followed the same process. Came in a tracksuit, flew in.
Okay, I'm interrupting you very quickly. I want to communicate to those who are watching us from Germany. We've successfully connected Germany, and a lot of activities has been going on there. We're going to get updates from them after the president addresses the nation. But I want to tell them the studio is unable to get your sound. If you have muted your sound from the computer you're using, unmute it so that we are sure that perfect. We now get your sound. Thank you very much. We are sure that you're connected with sound and video, and you're all looking so beautifully dressed. Your outfits are so amazing. That's amazing. Everybody wants to see it. I'm the only one that can see it. You see it only when the president would have addressed the nation. Barrister Tim, I'm not cutting you short, but you have less than a minute.
Yeah, I was saying that if at any moment one of those guys of the CPD and whatever of that regular status happen to have fallen into the hands of our own regular fighters, that's a good bargaining chip. Don't pretend to keep him in Gokutunja, in Bui, in Mezan, because they will come and take him. If Rambo did not surrender him, what will he be doing with him after 1 year, 6 months? What will he be doing with him? So there's only so much you can do to keep a political prisoner. The ones I know in other wars, they are flown out of the country. During the prisoner exchange, they are flown back and say, okay, this is Ayok Tabe, and then this is Madame Mundi. So again, I hope that guy has learned a lesson. You will be pretending if you're not learning any lesson. From what you put there,
I think that we should be targeting, unfortunately, Secretary Zama is here, you know, I'm always aiming high. I think that we should be targeting some Mebaras, some Atanganas, a minister, you know, these guys, they enter nightclubs, you know. We can strategize to pick one real figure, a profile like an Atanganji, you know, something that is an exchange. Atanganji is not useful to them, but let's get something that is a real exchange. That is part of war. It's a legal practice. Thank you very much, barristers. We're not leaving as yet. After the president's address, we're going to hear from Germany. They will take some questions from us, and then we'll come back to conclude this program by analyzing the speech of the president of tonight, and also providing to us some snippets of the president's address on the 25th during the town hall, and what are some of the lessons that we got from it. The week was not a bad week at all. The Amazonian Restoration Forces did big, and as we transition into the State House, I want you to have a minute of the ambience of the great work that our restoration forces did.
vision in this interim government is to make ABC a leader and a real war horse of our struggle. We want to grow it, expand it, hire and train more hands, and broadcast round the clock, around the world, and take command of the media space of this world.
You can enjoy all round the clock 24/7 exclusive moments of bliss as an ABC Amber TV Club member. A cappella. Latest Nigerian/African movies, global politics, ABC Amber News and updates, historical documentaries, and lots more. In our daily programs, we have Undaunted, ABC Amber News, bringing into the news untold stories with Onyi Okpala and Star Smart. Exclusive discussion, revolutionary panel conversation, infotainment, edutainment, intro governmental debates on topical issues with Tarh Paddy King, State of the Liberation Movement, Fronting IG and People of Ambazonia's position, the Struggles Weekly Update with Secretary Martin Mungwa, PhD, FASC. Health is Wealth, Health Education and Awareness within the Ambazonian community with Dr. Yaya. Liberation Prayer, an intercessory ministry for Ambazonia with Pastor Victor Mba. Our Freedom, spiritual awareness and education for the Ambazonian community with Pastor Victor Mba and Pastor Commando. Church and Politics, neutralizing the myths and preconceived religious and political philosophies that limit the Christian involvement in the realms of decent politics with Pastor Commando. The Horizon, the voice of the Ambazonian woman with Dr. Patience Abiedo and Lady Casey. Our Amber History, bringing to limelight the hidden history of Ambazonia to the world with Pastor Commando. Appointment on community building, education on patriotism within the Ambazonian communities with Ma Rachel Itatima. Ethics for an Imagination, watchdog of basic principles and morals of a nation at war with Ma Dorothy Ngwa. Upcoming programs: Pigeon News, Vernacular Talk Show, County Roots, Activists Corner, Amber Focus, only on ABC Amber Television. We the people, the voice of the voiceless. For 24/7 access, subscribe as a club member on www.abcambertv.com/subscribe.
All executive members of the Ambazonia community in Belgium, participants from other chapters in Germany and Europe, community and civil society leaders, traditional leaders, invited guests, fellow Ambazonians. Let me thank the Director of Youth, Sports and Cultural Affairs, Dr. Bashi, for this pioneer initiative to mobilize our grassroots base in the diaspora at this strategic moment in our struggle. Let your directorate help us to continue emphasizing what unites us more than what divides us. Our similarities instead of our differences. Our identity that we were born with instead of our diverse achievements and experiences. We are all Ambazonians, and that is what matters most. None can take that away from any of us. So what unites us is bigger and better than what separates us. Let's keep our eyes on the goal and forgive and tolerate each other for the sake of Mother Ambazonia. Dear supporters of our struggle in Europe, concerning the prosecution of our struggle, it was wise to place your bet on many horses at the beginning, but 7 years later, it will make sense to narrow down your bet on the horse or horses that are still active in the race, unless you are calling off the race, and that will mean surrender. The IG is still championing this race, and I invite you all to bet on the IG horse. We shall not fail Ambazonia. Permit me to ask you this question. If your boat capsized in the Mediterranean Sea, not too far from the shore, can you give up or be distracted from swimming ashore just because of the words, actions, or behaviors of anyone? And will your answer be different if the person trying to discourage you was in the water or on the shore? No, of course. No words, thoughts, or actions would matter more than your resolve to swim ashore because you are aware of the danger that faces you. For you to abandon this survival endeavor we call Ambazonia because of what somebody else did or said does not make sense to anyone who is looking up to us for victory. That is the mindset we should all have as Ambazonians. That is the message you are sending out from Berlin to all Ambazonians today. Fellow countrymen and women, we are at a very crucial time in the history of our God-ordained struggle. The moment is a make or mar moment. Our collective resolve has been tried and tested by time, by diverse pressures, by many afflictions, by evil men and women, and by predatory systems. But if we are still here fighting, it is because we have survived, or should I say triumphed, through many deadly waves. You and I chose to live by the truth and for the truth, opposing all organized attempts to deny the truth, distort it, manipulate it, or bury it. We are all refugees without a free land. Unfortunately, some of our comrades won't mind to abandon the truth and sell it for some crumbs falling from our enemy's table. They agree with those who pray us to sacrifice the truth of our history, accept internal fixes such as the spurious 1961 federal system, forgetting that that federation was a pretext and part of La République du Cameroon grand scheme to annex and assimilate us. As far as La République du Cameroon is concerned, it never happened. The pretext was set in their annexationist constitution of September 1961, following which Ahidjo appointed our Prime Minister, Augustin Gomjoa, dissolved our institutions and political parties. Before annexation, we elected our Premier. After annexation, La République du Cameroon appointed our Premier and dismissed him at will. Today, some want to prescribe the same failed medication as the right treatment for our demise. If a UN-mandated federation of two states of equal status did not guarantee our rights in the Union, is it a La République du Cameroon concocted federation that will address our fears and losses? Consider that the UN-mandated federation was, in actual fact, a quasi-confederation of two states of equal status. Why should anyone prescribe an internal Cameroonese federation to address a problem of sovereignty where an international confederation failed? Or why should special status be the right medicine where equal status failed? Why should a war against assimilation be resolved by doubling down on a forceful integration project they call decentralization? And my dear international stakeholders, why should the annexation of the southern Cameroons by La République du Cameroon be normalized by reciting Cameroon's lie that we are one and indivisible? And should a referendum be condemned for Russia annexed Donbass province, but prescribed as good for Cameroon annexed Amazonia? What a world of double standards. It is either there is no international laws or there is international law. Why is there a warrant of arrest for Putin, but none for Paul Biya? These are healthy debates we may freely engage in as a people, our understanding of these issues notwithstanding. We are free to disagree on this journey without throwing in the towel. We must not allow our differences and preferences, however, or our understanding of the issues, our ties with individuals, our choices on this slippery slope, and our errors in judgment to remove us away from our mission to support our dying people. We must fight till victory comes. Everyone and everything that is helping us to win La République du Cameroon is good for Amazonia. That is why we must tolerate each other and all who are fighting La République du Cameroon on the ground or in the diaspora, whether they like us or not, however they offend us or not. The bottom line is, if they are also enemies of our enemy, then it is the right thing to do. When it comes to an existential struggle like ours, the enemy of our enemy should be our friend. The reset of the IG in 2019 took place here in Germany, in Berlin. I hope this initiative here today will have a domino effect in the struggle as we mobilize towards the all-European 1st October independence celebration. Let me also challenge other chapters to contact the Diaska at the presidency to help organize such activities across our chapters in the Americas, Africa, and Asia. I use this opportunity to call on all our ambassadors, government officials, and patriotic supporters to begin planning and mobilization towards a triumphant 1st October 2023 in our various chapters. The cabinet will also be meeting in the United States physically, as has been happening every year. But this year's event carry a greater significance as we shall be celebrating the year of acceleration. The Ukrainian war has eclipsed all other wars or crises going on now in the world. It is time for Amazonians to come out and scream the loudest and be heard, because the ongoing genocide in Amazonia did not stop since the world turned their cameras to Ukraine. If the victims are silent, consciences will be quieted and the world will forget them. Let us mobilize till victory comes. Long live the Federal Republic of Amazonia, and God bless you all.
What I think is that before we move back into the studio to process this address, the comrades in Germany would like to say shout out to Ambazonians and give some updates. Dr. Ndula, dear comrades, congratulations and you're welcome. We're excited to see you all dressed in the obvious at Togo. You've just heard the president's address. Good evening. What's happening in Germany? I understand that the occasion started earlier on and there has been some displacement. Please talk to us.
Good evening, Paddy. Good evening, fellow Ambazonians. Mr. President, thank you for, as usual, a wonderful, encouraging, and aspiring speech. Thank you for the address. After the corona pause,
yeah, go ahead.
And people being silent about our case, just talking about Ukraine, Russia, we found it necessary, especially the Directorate of Youth, Sports, and Cultural Affairs, that we start making some noise again and inform the world about who we are, what we want. We are Southern Cameroon's Ambazonia, whose independence was voted for on 21st April 1961 and to be granted on 1st October 1961, but which was stolen from us, and there was only some sort of reunification with an unholy alliance with La Republique. 2017, 1st October 2017, that independence was restored by former President Sisiku Ayuktabe, who is languishing now in the concentration camp they call jail in La Republique. And today here we are. We have a new leadership. We have three arms of government. We are strong and marching forward. That's what we want to tell the world. And we are here in Germany. We kicked off with activities yesterday with arrival of guests, informal meetings. And today we had sporting activities, mostly football, engaging games with many sides, and traditional festivities and informing the world. And right now we are at a fundraising gala, slowly gathering up steam. By the way, with me here is Heisen Yongo, our coordinator for Germany, Pa Henry Su, our coordinator for Berlin, Pa Asongwe.
I would like to hear their voices. I hope sending me move them. At least they should talk.
That's fine.
It's a freestyle. I mean, but I really like to hear you talk. Yeah, amazing. Go ahead.
And many others whose names
you know the images I am looking forward.
Mm-hmm.
The chief of staff, I am told that she just went out. Is she back?
No, she will be joining us shortly. But she's here.
Let me
with us.
The images that our studios are waiting so we can have them to highlight in the news first thing Monday, and maybe to play around, are the images of the football match. I cannot wait. But even before we get down to it, you just mentioned that yesterday you had discussions, there were meetings. Just paint the picture as much as you can so that Ambazonians, like the president just admonished in his address, that he would like to see other regions and communities or continents of the world do a similar thing ahead of October 1st. Just paint this picture as much as possible so we can enjoy from the ambience and learn before your fundraiser.
Yes, so yesterday it was mostly in the evening after work. Many participants came traveling from far and wide in Germany and from parts of Europe, and we had just informal meetings where we talked about. We did the final plannings for today, and we engaged some other Southern Cameroonian brothers and sisters who are unfortunately not really into the Amazonian issue, so to say, who do not see themselves as Amazonians, are afraid, whatever, to get on board. And we convinced some who are here today and some still to come. So it's an ongoing battle. We are many Southern Cameroonians here in Germany, but this lukewarmness is also here. I think after the 2 years pause of Corona, we need to make much more noise now to bring back as many people on board as possible. So all that happened yesterday, and then today, early morning, it kicked off with sporting activities then.
Now, Dr. Tom Dola, you just mentioned something which is amazing. The effort to reach out. It was actually a reach out program which you successfully did. You're saying you were able to communicate with some who are disinclined, either intentionally or unconsciously, perhaps for some reason. You had to give them reasons why they need to be belong. This is something we need to do. Did you at any point send invitations to cultural groups or Southern Cameroonian or Cameroonian communities where you have Ambazonians or Southern Cameroonians residing? And what were the efforts, the pre-efforts that were made to enhance this day?
Yes, actually, as soon as we conceived this idea in April, ending of April, we started informing people, regions, especially cultural groups in and around Berlin, in the whole of Germany. It's the Bali Cultural Group, the Bafut Cultural Group, it's the powerful Grassfield Association here in Berlin, a chapter here in Berlin, a very vibrant chapter headed by one of us, a true Amazonian. And there are other chapters all over Germany. So they were all invited for football matches, and some of them came. And the football match was played between us and them. Well, we were very engaged. Yeah, and many goals were scored. I would say we almost had a draw, but yes, but they beat us this time. Next time will be much more stronger. But we shared that
Give us some commentary about this football match. I'm interested in it, and I'm sure a lot. I wish I had some of the images. Did Dr. Yaya play? Was Dr. Yaya a player? Was it a mixed game between male and female, or just male versus male? Please give us some details.
Well, it was mostly male. Dr. Yaya was our chief medical officer. And as you know, she and I, well, I was partly playing and then partly assisting Dr.
So
in the medical field.
You also played.
I did play.
So what
Yes.
did you play?
Well, I played in defense, so you will not expect many goals from me. Yes. So
That's
I was a
interesting.
replacement. Yes. So we, yes, Dr. I was the chief medical officer, assisting all those who had any minor injuries, and not only that, we did, and yeah, our directorate of SS for Dice, he really played, and yeah, he scored a wonderful goal. I mean, so
Now he promised during an interview on Thursday that is an opportunity for him to recruit Amazonian players, and he's thinking that in the days ahead, But if he can speak, even though he doesn't want to come on camera now, if he can speak, that would be good. So, did he see some potential players of Amazonian extraction that he thinks can compete on international platforms in soccer? If you cannot answer that question for him, that's okay. But how was the performance, general performance? That's what I'm seeking to know.
The general performance was good. I would say, I mean, judging from German standards, I would say like the Zweite Bundesliga, the second division plays in teams in Germany. So very engaged. Those were people who play regularly, and they were really well at what they do. And yeah, well, I had some difficulty catching up. I mean, my age and everything, but we did our best. Yes, I mean, I'm quite sure. I mean, there are some people, whom he found worthy to eventually be recruited into the Amazonian junior national team, because they are very experienced players whom we witnessed today, and we are very thankful that they played with us and made this day a great occasion. So that was a magnet also for those passing by, whom we try to inform also about our plight, about Southern Cameroon's Amazonia, that this war is not only going on in Ukraine, Ukraine being invaded by Russia, but Southern Cameroon is also being invaded by La République to Cameroon.
Dr. Tom, are you saying that you were impressed? So there were youngsters, Southern Cameroonians born probably in Germany. Did you have those who had never visited the Southern Cameroons that participated in this league, in this match?
Well, they are mostly Southern Cameroonians who migrated to Europe. Some were there with their children. And yes, and some come from other from other African countries also. So we had interesting discussions with them, and some actually were, few of them, we had the impression, well, I mean, they were afraid, like say, oh, Amber. Then we explained things to them and talked about our history and told them, well, even if you want to support us anonymously, you can do that. So at the end of the day, I'm confident we had many more engaged Ambazonians who will come over to us. So that was very important to us. We see the awareness as being awareness about our plight, first of all, amongst us, as being the most important issue here, besides the fundraising gala, which was to come, which is actually going on now. So I think in that respect, we did a good job, I would say.
Thank you very much. We have just a few more seconds to be with you, and we'll transition back into the studio. What's the general ambience and appraisal would like to know from you? Was this a successful gathering? And now I understand you're going to be doing some fundraisers, and I also know that you're organizing this program. There are some participating virtually. Do you have some accounts you would want to give us so we can present on air and have Amazonians that want to support this move to participate?
Yes, we have a PayPal account, which I would have to look. Just a minute, please. We have a PayPal account to which people who want to support us can wire in some money under the name of our able
PayPal, so I could have it on screen.
Yes, Asongwe, ASONGWE.
Just type that and send it to me on WhatsApp. That will be better, so that I'm sure of the spelling.
Yes. Okay.
Asongwe.
Asongwe.co.
Yeah.
At gmail.com.
Asongwe
eminent.co@gmail.com.
Okay, just send that to me on WhatsApp.
Okay.
I will confirm that right now and put on the screen. Any final statements? Like I said, was it a success? Are you satisfied with the turnout and whatever was achieved tonight? Please, we want to get that, and you have a few minutes to do that before we get into the studio to conclude the program for tonight.
Yes, given the shortness of notice and what we had to do, I mean, it was, I would say it was a success. The awareness being raised amongst our people, and well, I mean, a bit of lateness, be it in football or being in our gala, fundraising gala, which is slowly picking up steam. It is a success, I would say. But the thing is, the awareness has been raised, and we are pointing to the greater event coming up 1st October, which after this day, from tomorrow on, we will already start preparing for it, and we are already not only informing people now, raising awareness about Amazonian plight, but talking about 1st October that is coming, that will be commemorated the first after Corona. So
thank you very much, Dr. Tombola. I want to greet all the comrades there. Maybe you want to say something collectively as we bid you a farewell. Amazonians are seeing you at home front. You're being watched globally. We had a good turnout on all the different fora today. Amazonians were excited, and they are really excited that you're doing this fundraiser and you're participating. Please, I want to beg with the team in Europe, and I'm apologizing to Amazonians who were unable to stream the program live because everyone that was there that could help, we do not have a staff on the ground, and everyone that was there was busy in an activity. So we managed to get a few of them now planning to get into the fundraiser. It's 11 p.m. in Germany.
our Germany coordinator would like to say something.
Please go ahead.
Yes, yeah, Paddy, good evening.
I'm happy
Good
to.
evening, Mr. President. I'm sure you're listening to us here in Berlin. I was really impressed with the turnout of events these 2 days, and I would say we had some degree of success given the short notice which we had to prepare for the occasion. You're going to have videos of our cultural events this morning sent to you, and some sporting activities too. If we should end now, I would go home and sleep happily and think we were successful. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I cannot wait for those images. And I hope to have Dr. Tomdola and some people for an exclusive interview with Undaunted on Monday as we showcase the images to the public. Thank you very much for fighting at different fronts for Amazonia. You are, as the restoration forces are fighting on the ground, you're doing it in the diaspora. And I would say you're doing big. Thank you very much. We're moving back into the studios with the gentlemen that have been fighting with words to educate and inform our people. And we're not done yet. We still have about 20 minutes to go. Please, you bear with us because the the flight will continue as though there was no transit point. We will start with what the president was talking about. And I would say once again, Comrade Zaman, Barrister T, Barrister So, you are welcome back. You heard the president, you've watched the ambience in Europe. What do you have to say? Let me start with Barrister Mesa.
Well, I think the president, as usual, was pointedly smart. As usual, he hit the right nails when he said, our similarities should override our differences. He said, we are going to survive on our collective endeavors. And he asked a question. What do you think special status will deliver better than a two-state equal status federation? I think that's the summary of what he said. I think it points, if you can elaborate on that for days and years to come. But the message was delivered pointedly, accurately, and so on. Thank you.
That's amazing. Barrister Fru, please.
Yes, the president today affirmed what Ambassador Fossong said, that Dr. Sako and his IG should be steadfast to take us to Boya. And I think he did just that. In fact, it's a unified speech. It's a speech that it was short but to the point, and said we are in this together. Even if we are taken by the storm, the few of us who survive will have to swim to the shore. So we are swimming to the shore. We are going to Boya, while others are going to Yaoundé. We will see.
We're on our way to
who will
Boya.
get. Thank you very much. That's my reaction.
Yes, Secretary Zama, please.
Well, I think ongoing education is what we do best with the IG. The president given a litany of what we are as a country. And I want to add to what he stated earlier, in other words, that we are two different countries. We are not part of La Republique. I want from those many who are out there who still are frolicking with the idea that we are one country. I have traveled a lot of states in America. I've traveled other parts of different countries. I've never seen a custom control within a country. When I'm driving to Texas, that is a couple of thousand miles from where I live, there is no custom or border control between those states, between where I live and Texas. But for those of us who are still in Amazonia, who think that we are part of La Republique, when you leave from Sabungari, there is a custom control in there. You come to station, there's a Bamenda station. In mile 1, there's a custom control. You go up to Santa Metasm, there's a control station there. You go on to Penja, there's a control station there. There's another control at the Mongo. It's a custom station at the Mongo. There's another one in Adamawa area that links to parts of Bui and Dongamantum area. There are no custom boundaries within a country. If we do see these things, and they've been in existence since the 60s or even before independence, it means that we are two countries. That's the only way. If you leave from France and you're going to Germany, there's a custom control area. And it's because you are going to different countries. There cannot be a border internal control within a country and you say it's the same country. There's every proof that we are not the same country by all those border controls. Before, they used to use what you call a laissez-passer for you to leave from Amazonia or former southern Cameroon into La Republique. Now they are just using it as a formal station for controls and to a place to take bribes. So we are different countries, even by the physical geology of it or the physical geography of it. We are two different countries. And we will have to keep pounding this into our people's head because we've not really had a real history of Cameroon and Amazonia, and in that relationship, we have to continue doing that education, and we have to do it every day. Thank you.
Yes, we continue the education, and the president is always hitting the nail on the head. It was an interesting speech as always. But it only came to crown our discussion of today. It was we do not have much time again to have gone into analysis of what the president said on the 25th of May during the town hall, but that is all interrelated. We've heard a president who is abreast of time, who is a visionary, who is projecting why others are planning to destroy, others are planning to separate us. His projects are designed to bring Amazonians together responsibly under their counties and LGAs where they can easily relate with each other. We've seen a president tonight who wants us to celebrate our independence this year, especially, and he mentioned the year of acceleration. The interim government will lay out a program for other continents and especially the Americas in the days ahead. And the ambience has just started. I can't wait to have those images. In conclusion, what is the way forward? I'm going to be asking you all this question. We've learned our lessons from what the consequences of a bad idea. It all started with a block by block flop. It failed because it did not understand us as a people and how we constitute ourselves. The same architects or brains behind this failed idea are now transforming it into an APLC or what again is all one agenda with warlords, evil practitioners, enablers seeking to politically position themselves in an attempt to stop our quest for total freedom. The same evangelists and crusaders of a referendum are claiming were the same ones who had the failed unity warriors and are the same ones who are picking our images. If you now see, we are proactively making sure before they get these images, we want to send them out with our seals. They are picking our images and putting their logos, APLMs, staging videos to show some relevance. My question to you, gentlemen, is what is the appropriate way forward? Have we learned any lessons looking at the recent events? As a government, as institutions, as individuals or stakeholders or those who are taking responsibility at any level within this government, have we learned any lessons? If yes, what is the number one? Barrister Team, I'll start with you.
I will lessons. Yes, I think we have. Basically, we're learning the lessons because this is our first time. We got into this thing for the very first time in our lives. Because in revolutions, things happen. All what has happened to us up to this point, news, but it's not new in any revolution. There will always be detractors. There will be traitors. There will be any type of people you can imagine who would come to detract you. And so that might be new to us because we never did it before, but we're learning a lot. So what is the way forward? The way forward is to remain focused, very, very focused. And let me take it back to the thing we had debated for the past 30, 40 minutes, 1 hour. Now, we're talking about the surrender of Rambo, the release of the phone, and that took us to the CDN and other things. CDN did not happen today. It happened almost 2 years ago. Have they succeeded? Now, how do we know that they have not succeeded? CDN was meant to do something. It was meant to undermine us, to bring La République on top. It progressed from there to Canada too. And where is Canada too today? Even those people who went there, They coined a name for themselves, the Big Four. Who are these Big Four? The organization of Chuayaba, the one of Akwanga, the one of Yerema, and the one of Akuro. Who are they today? They are even ashamed to tell us whatever thing they discussed in Canada too. Nobody is showing up to say we did this. So that one has failed and woefully failed. That took us to the referendum, and I said this many times before. The referendum is dead on arrival at this stage. And always quote me. Nobody is coming to give anybody a referendum at this stage. So let us remain focused. Why must we remain focused? Because all these distractions are not happening for nothing. They're happening because the enemy is feeling the pinch. Our opponents are looking for a way out. They don't just fall from the sky. So they happen because somebody is trying to push an agenda out. Why are they pushing an agenda? If the war had ended the way they thought in 2017, there would not have been anything called Grand National Dialogue. If the Grand National Dialogue has solved their problem, there would not have been a CDN. There would not have been Canada 1 and 2. If those had succeeded, the referendum would not be here today being discussed. If that had succeeded, they would not have been rejoicing that their son remained in captivity. In fact, the president of the House of Chiefs for 1.5 years. And we released him. Our people released him. He was not released by the government. So let us remain focused. We are succeeding. No success is simple. The journey is not simple, but I think we have far covered the better part of it. Going forward, education to do, Mr. Secretary of Defense. Again, let me emphasize again, let the education go to our fighters. There's nothing in liberation wars like independent fighters. Never. There's nothing in liberation wars like the absence of the diaspora. Never. This education is necessary. What we learn from it, I've said, and let me conclude here, that if that chief, if that fawn has learned nothing after remaining in captivity, in the absence of his millions of wives in his palace, if he has learned nothing, then he must be the dullest man in the world. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I am bringing in the donation right now. If you look under your screen in a few minutes, you're going to be having details of the donation link. And we hope that for those of you who are, in fact, donations can be made globally. It's in preparation. You've heard the organizers themselves. It's in preparation of the activities ahead of October 1st. I understand that some of it is not very clear. We're rectifying that so that you can get details of the donation. Please, you can also contact ABC Amber TV and we will send details to you. We hope to, as we're sharing the images on the different fora, we hope to update you on that. So let's have whatever is there now corrected in such a way that you can easily follow. So I like to hear from you. In fact, this is your sector. Forgive me for using the colonial language, Secretary Zama. This is your catchment, your field of expertise. I
Before
remember
he
in
comes,
military.
before he comes, let us the civilians give our position.
Okay, we heard from Barrister Team. I think let's get the civilian. Barrister Fru, please. Yes, Barrister Fru, please.
Yes.
I'm multitasking
Uh,
and I apologize for not bringing you up.
we have been in a revolution for the last 6 to 7 years. And we started learning how to behave like the revolutionaries not very long ago. Because in every revolution, you have the enemy and the enemy within. You have to learn to fight both the enemy and the enemy within. In fact, the enemy within is more dangerous than the enemy himself. When we started, and when all what was going on, the coup plotters were planning and planning and recruiting and getting people within the revolutionary government of the IG, we were still behaving as if we were a government, a democratic government who have to respect democratic principles and all that. And we were taken by surprise. My message to the defense department is that going forward, we have to recognize both the enemy and the enemy within, and treat the enemy within and the enemy as one. We have gotten to a point where we have to do that. Look at the unity warriors. Look at the number of young people that no pity killed in Bambalang. The boys he took from Bambalang and slaughtered them, more than 42 of them or more on counting. That is the enemy within. And the unity warriors still have remnants running around under the command of Big Vulture or whatever they call him, and one Henry New York or what, I don't know, I cannot pronounce that name. The enemy within is more dangerous than the enemy without. That our real enemy. So we should learn to treat both the same. If we have to go to Boya. Secondly, the revolutionary government has to learn to act preemptively. What do I mean by that? Up to the last moment when the coup plotters were still in the interim government, they were challenging us in the cabinet directly. Whether it was Marianta, Chris Anu, Abongwa. In fact, it came to a point where Abongwa gave the president an ultimatum. And I did ask the question, if the president does not respect this year ultimatum, what will you do? Well, he chickened out. I thought he was going to come out and say something that I can work on. He chickened out and said nothing. But let me tell you, inside this IG now, it's not the same like before, but there are elements inside this IG that are still thinking the same way. Once a coup plotter is always a coup plotter. I have said it and I said it. Look, I'm a lawyer. I've been a lawyer, of course, not as long as my dear senior colleague, Barrister Mbesa, but I've been a lawyer for more than 40 years. And let me tell you, I watch and listen and analyze. There are people in this interim government that if we don't put a check on them, we may end up having another crisis. God forbid that it happens. I'm not a soothsayer, but I'm saying that we should now be acting like a revolutionary government. Act immediately. Act with precision. And act preemptively. So that what happened before should not repeat itself. We are on the right track. We are in the year of acceleration, and should not allow anything to stand in the way of that acceleration as proclaimed by our president, the President of the Federal Republic of Ambazonia, Dr. Ikomesaku. I am saying the way forward is we should start fighting the enemy within, because we have not done so far. Oh, they are all brothers, we cannot shed brothers' blood, and so on and so on. But he will shed your own. No pity slaughtered Bambalang boys and girls when he took them to Unity Warriors. And what did we do? Nothing. They themselves killed themselves, and in the course of it, no pity died. Shane Rambo has saved his head by obeying the present remnants of the Unity Warriors, and we cannot say that we failed him in doing what? He put himself in that position by being a member of the Unity Warriors. And his friends wanted his head because of money. And when they released the fund, they gave a condition to La Republic. We are releasing the fund, but we are also giving to you a captive. And they gave us General Rambo. And General Rambo is now in dock, going around trying to point at our forces. I am not a soldier, but luckily we have our SOS Zama, who is in the military. You have a task to ensure that Senior Rambo does not succeed with La Republic of Cameroon to track down our restoration forces. We should fight like gorillas, because we cannot stand a regular force. We should continue to fight like gorillas, and we cannot allow a gorilla who has given up to join the enemy to betray the cause and show where our people are. That is the work that the army should be doing now to make sure that anybody who goes to DDR does not show where our fighters are. That is the way forward.
Thank you very much, Barrister Fru. I wish we had all day. Secretary Zama, as you conclude on the way forward, I have this to carry you with. It is like a question. My question goes thus. With your savoir, you know that right now some of our tracks are jeopardized. Every single Amazonian that is sold out, our tracks are jeopardized. Is it either resources getting on the ground and so on and so forth? What's the way forward? Amazonians are listening.
Yeah, I think every step of the way that we've encountered difficulties, this IG has surmounted that. In a tough storm, only the baobab trees survive. The trees with less taproot and weight and all on don't. All these groups are all fleeting groups. They will come and go. But the enemy will keep changing them to meet the conditions on the battlefield. With that said, we cannot sit on our laurels and say, well, we have the largest soldiers on the ground, and we will have to confront the enemies within and those without. We've been doing that, albeit sometimes with limited success. But the recent things that's happening in Amazonia, especially in Goketunja, is what is going to strike an awakening chord to our soldiers, that they are all about to be sneered. But our soldiers are alert. They know what is expected of them. They know what is expected of somebody who's gone to DDR. The enemy will use them and exploit as much information as possible. It's incumbent on us for them not to benefit from any information that he gives to them. We are going to change, or they are actually changing um, operations and changing methodology and places and hows in our operation. And our citizens should rest assured at war, like we've said to our citizens, um, the most of people who have been killed in this war are those who have either been careless or have been with the unity warrior. Most of the death of Amazonian citizens in the fighting force has been with the unity warriors. Very few people before 2022 were being killed. Our soldiers are still fighting, and the enemy, we are bleeding the enemies quite much. Um, we're killing a lot of their top officers. Most of the enemies coming into the field are less than 2 years of training or less than 2 years in the military. So we have gotten through all those um, um, trained soldiers, veterans. They are all in hospitals. Some of them, most of them are dead. So we are making a lot of progress. The tendency is that we tend not to see these victories that we have in the field. I want Amazonians to be assured that this fight is ongoing. One of us can surrender, but we have 30 or 40 Shinarambos who are willing to fight for the things that they enter this war to fight. Um, we are asking everybody and talking to our soldiers and talking to our commanders in the field to keep a cool head and fight this war like they were fighting before, and to talk with people in case they have difficulties. They should try to get people early into these discussions before things start getting south. On the end of the day, I want to tell Amazonians that the war is going very well. I don't have any sleepless nights because every day we are destroying 3, 4, 5 of these people's $1 million trucks. Um, they are bleeding, and they are bleeding really hard. They are spending 10 billion franc every month on this war, a war that is not going to win. By the end of this war, La Republique will be bankrupt. The Chinese would just buy Cameroon on the cheap because it's that's where it's going. They will not be able to. They've already defaulted in their payment. The IMF already is taking over their budget, so they really do not have any money. They may borrow and steal to fight this war, but if they want to hold us down, we will stay down with them. They're not going to be able to get up. So that's where we are. We are doing very well, and I think all our citizens should be rest assured things are going well. Thank you.
Honestly, this is a beautiful conclusion. If you've noticed, I'm bringing you on the screen actually to applaud you of the fact that there's a lot that is happening, and these are some beautiful images that are emanating from the home front. This is as much as we could put together. We actually telling Amazonians, listen, no matter what is happening, our fighters are doing it, and they're doing it big. We can, the same week that Shina Rambo would have to surrender, supposedly surrender, we had many of the mighties falling. We've seen IEDs exploding more, the firepower. I hope you're not going away, as a man, because this is where you're concluding the matter. The firepower of the 2021 is returning, and returning quickly than we even thought. The federal draft concept is gaining grounds. Amazonians are lagging, and some of them are being inspired and encouraged. And remember, before we move, the president says that this is the month of redemption. And for those who have not redeemed their draft, it's important that they get to do so. You have seen some of these images, and I want you to enforce on this because that's where we conclude in 3 minutes. You need to re-strategize. It's really a struggle. Shinorambo occupied a very important role, and you're saying your people are displacing. How proactively has that been done? and what should Ambazonians look up to?
I think I still want to re-emphasize that we are on top of the war. The enemy is bleeding. The enemy is crying day and night. In most of Ebolowa, Sangmalima, a lot of them have their burial graves in front of their houses. So we can tell by the number of fresh graves that are being dug in those localities. We are on top of it. We are just going to redress. The enemy has changed tactics. We're going to also change. It's not a straight line reaction that we're going to have. Our people, and I want to trust our soldiers who are fighting on there. I think everybody should have a cool head, and everything will be fine. We are on top of it. I can say that with some certainty, based on what I know.
Thank you very much for that uh, courageous utterances. I would say those are decisive statements. Um, Gentlemen, thank you once again for coming. I appreciate your time. You're all busy, but I miss that you would create the time to come and have a conversation with us like this at very, very, very difficult times. Thank you so very much for coming, Barrister Team, Barrister Mbesa, Barrister Secretary Zama. We've had more than 2 hours of discussion, approximately 2 hours, 30 minutes of an amazing discussion. And Amazonians, it's a beautiful weekend. I promise to bring to you images coming in from Germany. You sure want to see them and to be inspired the same way that I'm being inspired. But even before we even do that, these are the details we have there for the fundraiser, which I think you may want to participate. For those of you who are thinking that you want to contribute some money, please, you can make your contributions now. It's very simple. Make your contributions. PayPal at songwe.co@gmail.com. The account coordinator, the name is Asongwe Collins Onabit. The IBN number is DE72100900038 26500. Berliner Volksbank. Reason for your transaction is Europe mobilization for October 1st, 2023. You want to be a part of history, and at every given opportunity, we will have these details on our screens all day as we broadcast these programs and other programs. We are having an exclusive strip of the president's first October speech. All of yesterday, we have been streaming it over and over again as per recommendation. We are told that at some places at the home front, our audience are not getting sound. It's been on for like 3 days. We're working with a satellite company to fix it, but it's not from our studios, because we are streaming on the website with sound, Facebook, YouTube. We do have sound, and if you are facing some challenges with the sound, we are correlating with the technicians and the satellite company to see how much we can fix it. Until then, it was Star Paddy King. We've learned our lessons. We've seen what happened, and as we move forward, we can only get better. Ahead of this month is the International Refugee Days. All of us in the diaspora are refugees. So we all in the diaspora will have to unite our forces with the interim government and the HSS under the leadership of Dr. Tita Emmanuel G and Marashe Itatima. We unite forces with them to make sure that we can provide sustenance and to our refugees at the home front, our IDP in ground one and other parts of the world, and the IDPs at the home front. The preparations and the program and how to participate will also be made known by that department. As soon as we gain sufficient, or we get sufficient information, we will not hesitate to bring them up to you I'll leave you with these beautiful images that are coming in from the home front all across this week. Enjoy and have a beautiful weekend to our Ambazonian Restoration Forces. Shake, shake, no day. Until Boya will not be rest. Good night.
Vision in this interim government is to make ABC a leader and a real war horse of our struggle. We want to grow it, expand it, hire and train more hands, and broadcast round the clock, around the world, and take command of the media space of this world.
You can enjoy all round the clock 24/7 exclusive moments of bliss as an ABC Amber TV Club member. A cappella. Latest Nigerian/African movies, global politics, ABC Amber News and updates, historical documentaries, and lots more. In our daily programs, we have Undaunted, ABC Amber News, bringing into the news untold stories with Onyi Okpala and Star Smart. Exclusive discussion, revolutionary panel conversation, infotainment, edutainment, intro governmental debates on topical issues with Tarh Paddy, State of the Liberation Movement, Fronting IG and People of Ambazonia's Position, The Struggles Weekly Update with Secretary Martin Mungwa, PhD, FASC, Health is Wealth, Health Education and Awareness within the Ambazonian Community with Dr. Yaya, Liberation Prayer, an intercessory ministry for Ambazonia with Pastor Victor Mba, Our Freedom, spiritual awareness and education for the Ambazonian community with Pastor Victor Mba and Pastor Commando, Church and Politics, neutralizing the myths and preconceived religious and political philosophies that limit the Christian involvement in the realms of decent politics with Pastor Commando, The Horizon, the voice of the Ambazonian woman with Dr. Patience Abiedo and Lady Casey, Our Amber History, bringing to limelight the hidden history of Ambazonia to the world with Pastor Commando, Appointment on Community Building, Education on Patriotism within the Ambazonian communities with Ma Rachel Itatima, Ethics for an Emerging Nation, Watchdog of Basic Principles and Morals of a Nation at War with Ma Dorothy Ngwa. Upcoming programs: Pigeon News, Vernacular Talk Show, County Roots, Activists Corner, Amber Focus, only on ABC Amber Television. We the people, the voice of the voiceless. For 24/7 access, subscribe as a club member on www.abcambertv.com/subscribe.